Congressman Randy Fine joins us now. Congressman, I am constantly wondering, why aren't we labeling Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization at the federal level? It seems like a no-brainer.
I think it's a great question. Look, I've filed a bill to make CARE a designated terrorist organization. I know others have filed bills to make the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. It's clear that they are. I mean, CARE was formed to sponsor terror. They said after October 7th that it made them happy. We can see the kinds of activities they support around the country. And I think it's inexplicable why they haven't been. If Egypt and the UAE can call them a terrorist organization, I don't know why we can't do the same.
According to a tweet by Laura Loomer earlier today, she says the plan to designate the Muslim Brotherhood a terror group was killed off when the Qataris asked the Trump administration to release a senior Muslim Brotherhood terrorist from Egypt. I don't know what the sourcing is on this story or this allegation, but what do you make of that?
Well, that's the first I've heard of it. I find it believable. Look, Qatar engages in all kinds of nefarious activities. They've sent me weird communications, attempted to threaten me by pointing out how many Muslims that support them live in Florida. And so I think perhaps Qatar is part of the reason, because I think Qatar is one of the leading funders of the Muslim Brotherhood, groups like CARE and those who oppose them. And so I'm sure that with all of their lobbyists, they're lobbying hard throughout Washington to stop it.
Well, I mean, it's home base for Muslim Brotherhood leadership, isn't it?
Well, look, Qatar allows terrorists to live there. They allowed Hamas to live there. I think they still do. So they choose to play host and roll out the red carpet to Muslim terrorists. They sponsor Al Jazeera, which was just a mouthpiece for Muslim terrorism. And I think they engage in a whole lot of activity that I think is not productive. I mean, we often say Iran is the head of the snake. I'm often convinced that it really is Qatar, because of all the money that they flood the zone with, whether it's to influencers, whether it's for paid protesters, whether it's at our universities, whether it's with these Muslim terror affiliates like CARE or Students for Justice in Palestine. It's very clear to me that Qatar is a problem, and it's one that I certainly am focused on.
Why is it so difficult to actually put a label on the Muslim Brotherhood itself? I know I can see the nuances with Qatar. I've criticized Qatar loudly. You've done so to sometimes to your to threatening to in response to have threatening letters sent to you, but there's a bit of nuance in the Qatar story, just because we do have ties with them. They are trying to be players in the Middle East. But the Muslim Brotherhood just seems like a much easier situation to label. Why can't the bills that you mentioned pass in Congress? What is it? Just the money? Is it all being paid off?
I think that's a big part of it. I also think they take advantage of our values to try to force theirs on us. So let's look at CARE for an example. CARE markets itself as the NAACP for Muslims. So when you attack CARE, which is clearly a terrorist front, you're effectively attacking a civil rights organization. And so they take advantage of the notion that we believe in civil rights, and that we believe in celebrating all peoples in order to attack us. It's the same thing they do with Islamophobia, something which is fake. I mean, fear of Islam is rational. People, there's a lot of them who want to kill us. And so they attempt to use our values and our historical norms in order to silence us. And so I think, frankly, by having the word, I mean, if you think of the name Muslim Brotherhood, on the face of it, that doesn't sound so bad. Muslims are religion, brotherhoods aren't inherently bad. So they take advantage of our values, our norms, and our philosophy to try to stop us from doing things. If the name was, Muslim Terrorists Inc., it would be easier, but they take advantage of these things, and I think that's what hangs us up.
Are they also taking advantage of the diplomatic situation in the Middle East? Because we've seen, obviously, some pretty friendly overtures between the Trump administration and the Qataris, who host a lot of the Muslim Brotherhood. And it seems like that's an advantage for a group like the Muslim Brotherhood, who can just continue to go under the cover of, hey, this is all part of diplomacy. Don't designate us anything because we're going to help keep the peace. Is that part of the pitch here?
It may be. And look, Qatar funds lots of lobbyists. They pay lobbyists all over the city. Those lobbyists have a job to do. And I think one of the things they do is say, don't go after these Muslim terror fronts too aggressively. So when you do what I do, you get a lot of backlash. I think that's another thing too, is there's fear. When you're someone like me who will get thousands of threatening comments on social media every day, a lot of my colleagues go, we just don't want to deal with it. There's a statement that ignorance is bliss. Sticking your head in the sand is easier. And I think pretending that this isn't a problem is almost easier than actually realizing that there's evil in this world and that we have to fight it every day.
Well, going back to Texas, and Texas taking that giant leap, saying, hey, we are going to designate this a terrorist organization. I mean, do you see other states following suit?
Well, I hope so. Look, in Florida last year, when I was in the state legislature, we passed a resolution at the legislative level to call CARE a terrorist organization. It did not have the force that Governor Abbott has done, where he's called on the attorney general to shut them down. But Florida called on all local governments to have nothing to do with them, and it passed overwhelmingly. So certain states have stepped up to do the right thing. I think Texas has taken a great leadership position, and I hope that the federal government will take a look at Texas. I mean, our states often innovate before the federal government. I've certainly observed that in my 7 months here in Congress after having been in the Florida legislature for 8.5 years. I think Congress should take that step. We should designate the Muslim Brotherhood a foreign terrorist organization and all of their affiliates like CARE and Students for Justice in Palestine. All of these groups that seek the destruction of the United States, we should call them all for what they are: evil.
And they've been doing it systematically for years, starting in 1991 at least. We have that manual talking about how they needed to infiltrate the government and education. And sure enough, you see these names circulating in places they probably shouldn't. Congressman Fine, thank you very much. We appreciate the time.
Thank you.